Is Jaylen Brown about to be pushed out of Boston? The Celtics star fires back. Amid rumors, what if the Celtics are about to make the biggest mistake in their modern history and they don't even realize it? Jaylen Brown, fresh off a gritty playoff run where he played through a torn meniscus, is now the center of a storm that's far bigger than just another offseason rumor mill. This isn't your typical trade buzz. This time, it feels different. It feels dangerous. The Celtics, crowned champions less than a year ago, suddenly find themselves at a crossroads. And it looks like Brown is the one standing in the fire, behind the curtain of a successful season. Something unsettling is brewing. Ownership has changed, and with new billionaires come new agendas. One of those might include trimming costs in a roster where Brown is set to earn north of $50 million per year. That's not just money, that's a statement. And in a league where narratives matter almost as much as stats, Brown's narrative is being rewritten by whispers and front office calculation. But here's the twist. Jaylen Brown is not staying silent. In a revealing interview with NBC Boston, Brown didn't give the usual safe PR lines. He didn't sidestep the speculation. Instead, he said what fans weren't expecting, and maybe what the front office didn't want to hear. Boston is home. I've been here 10 years of my life. There's a lot of noise online or in the media, but when you're out in the community, it's all love and genuine connections. That wasn't just a player giving lip service to his city. That was a man defending his legacy, staking a claim not just to his future, but to his identity as a Celtic. But here's the uncomfortable question. Will that be enough? Let's not pretend this is all about money. Boston's front office has shown in the past that sentimentality doesn't win out when business calls. Isaiah Thomas found that out. So did Marcus Smart. Now Brown, a two-time Finals MVP and arguably the best two-way player on the team, might be next in line. The situation gets even more volatile when you factor in Jayson Tatum's Achilles injury. With Tatum sidelined for what could be the entire next season, the Celtics will need a face, a leader, a stabilizer. And ironically, Brown has become that by default. So why are they even entertaining the idea of trading him? Some league insiders point to concerns about his long-term health, especially now that he played through a torn meniscus, a fact that somehow got buried under playoff headlines. He's now openly talking about potential surgery that would put the start of his next season in doubt. I got a lot of doctors I got to get evaluated with. Surgery versus no surgery. For now, it's just rest and recovery. I'm taking a step back from a long season. Mentally, it was a lot. But should we really be questioning his value when he just gave the team everything? On one leg, this is where it gets uncomfortable. What if the Celtics see this as their perfect out? Brown's massive Supermax contract kicks into high gear just as the new ownership begins shaping its vision. What better time to reset than when your star is injured and your other star is out? It's the kind of ruthless logic that looks clean in a spreadsheet, but chaotic in real life. Still, there's something oddly silent from the Celtics brass. No public commitment, no strong vote of confidence, just murmurs. And the longer that silence stretches, the louder the trade rumors grow. Is Boston about to commit a strategic disaster? Jrue Holiday trade. Rumors. Spark. Alarming possibility. What if the Boston Celtics are about to hand the keys of the East to their rivals on a silver platter in a shocking wave of trade projections? Flooding the offseason conversation, one name keeps surfacing. Jrue Holiday, the defensive cornerstone and championship architect, is being floated as a trade chip, not just to anyone, but to Eastern Conference contenders. That's not a small tweak. That's a potential unraveling of the Celtics' very identity, all in the name of financial survival. But let's pause and ask the real question no one's willing to say out loud. Are the Celtics about to outsmart themselves straight into irrelevance? Boston's success has become its greatest burden. The price of keeping a roster this elite, featuring multiple all-stars and high-value veterans, is astronomical under the NBA's new second apron. We're talking about $500 million in potential payroll plus luxury taxes. And now, with Jayson Tatum likely out for most or all of the next season due to a torn Achilles, the team suddenly finds itself cornered. Do they go all in on a lost season or quietly begin dismantling the machine? And that's where the Jrue Holiday dilemma kicks in like a cold slap of reality. Holiday was never just a roster piece. He was the balancer, the one who took on the toughest defensive assignments, allowed Jaylen Brown and Tatum to conserve energy, and brought the intangibles that don't show up in highlight reels. When the Celtics needed maturity and execution in tight playoff moments, Holiday delivered. Without him, the 2024 championship doesn't happen. But now, his $135 million extension, which felt like a steal in April, is suddenly being re-evaluated like a bad investment. Think about the message this sends. Win a championship, play, elite defense, sacrifice your body, sign an extension, and you're the first to go? That's not team building. That's asset flipping with a human cost. One of the more jaw-dropping scenarios? Sending Holiday to Miami, a direct conference rival. In return, Andrew Wiggins, a player who has struggled with consistency, injuries, and fit since his championship glow with Golden State faded. He's younger, sure. He's under control, yes. But does anyone really believe he can replicate what Holiday gives you on both ends when it matters most? And beyond that, do you help Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Eric Spoelstra become relevant? Again, Boston fans remember how Miami tormented them in 2020, 2022, and nearly again in 2023. The idea of gifting them Holiday, arguably one of the most impactful playoff defenders of the last 5 years, is borderline reckless. Another proposal sends Holiday to the Dallas Mavericks, a former finals opponent, in exchange for a haul of role players: Daniel Gafford, Jaden Hardy, Caleb Martin, and Olivier Maxence Prosper. Sure, on paper this deepens Boston's bench, but look deeper. None of these players have proven they can shift a playoff series. Gafford is athletic but inconsistent. Martin had a brief playoff breakout against the Celtics, but hasn't sustained that level. Hardy and Prosper are still in the potential phase. Is Boston sacrificing the proven for a patchwork of maybes? That's not a retooling. That's gambling the tail end of your title window on hope. Here's the truth behind the headlines. This isn't about fit. It's not about age. It's not even about performance. This is pure economics. The new Celtics ownership, faced with brutal repeater tax penalties and second apron restrictions, sees Holiday not as a player, but as a number on a ledger. And that's terrifying, because when a franchise starts prioritizing spreadsheets over locker rooms, culture dies fast. Remember what made the 2024 Celtics unbeatable. It wasn't just talent. It was trust, grit, and a veteran backbone that didn't flinch under pressure. Holiday was the soul of that identity. Now, the Celtics are flirting with a future where all of that is gone, sacrificed at the altar of fiscal responsibility. Could Boston be plotting the most emotional betrayal yet? The shocking twist in a Kristaps Porzingis, Marcus Smart reunion. What if the Celtics' next move isn't about basketball, but about damage control? And what if the return of Marcus Smart isn't a nostalgic homecoming, but a desperate lifeline? Behind the scenes of Boston's glittering success and recent championship glow, something far more fragile is unraveling. With Jayson Tatum's Achilles injury sidelining the face of the franchise, the Celtics are standing at the edge of a financial cliff. But what they might do next could rock the locker room, split the fan base, and blow open a war with the new CBA rules. Let's skip the pleasantries. Boston is no longer in control. The second apron has flipped the chessboard. The Celtics are now operating under a salary cap regime designed to punish super teams. No mid-level exception, no cash flexibility, no margin for missteps. Every move is life or death. And under this pressure, Kristaps Porzingis, one of the Celtics' most unique weapons, has suddenly become expendable. Despite being a 7'3" matchup nightmare who was pivotal in anchoring Boston's too-big system, he now represents something more dangerous: a $30 million expiring liability. Here's where it gets wild, because the rumored solution, Marcus Smart, back in green. But is this really about basketball? Or is it a way to plug the emotional holes left by a collapsing roster? Smart's departure in 2023 was one of the most polarizing trades in recent Celtics history. He wasn't just a player, he was the heartbeat, the defensive conscience, the guy who bled green, even when the locker room bled red. Now, with the team's soul in flux and the fanbase hungry for an identity, his return would feel like poetry. But here's the twist. This trade isn't about heart, it's about hard. Math. Kristaps Porzingis is owed over $30 million and comes with durability red flags and structural fit questions in a season without Tatum. Smart, in contrast, is owed $21 million with the flexibility of spreading that cap hit over multiple years. It's not a basketball trade. It's a CBA escape hatch disguised as a sentimental reunion. The Celtics may be leveraging Smart's emotional capital to distract from a roster regression. Let's not ignore how bizarre this trade proposal looks. From the Washington Wizards side, why would a team in full rebuild mode absorb a bigger contract for an aging big man with limited long-term upside? They wouldn't, unless Boston sweetens the deal, and that's where the Celtics may face their next strategic nightmare, giving up draft capital to move a player who, not long ago, was considered a massive upgrade. How quickly does that narrative flip? If Boston is willing to sacrifice assets just to dump salary, what message does that send about their confidence in this roster without Tatum? More importantly, how deep does the panic really run? Trading Porzingis would be the first domino, but make no mistake, if Brad Stevens goes that route, it signals something massive, that the 2025 season is being written off. That ownership would rather reset than float the financial penalties of trying to contend without Tatum. This isn't a minor roster shuffle, it's a culture shift. And here's the chilling truth. The Celtics could justify trading Holiday, Porzingis, and even Derek White under the same logic. High salary, low flexibility, uncertain return value. Imagine a Celtics team without Tatum, Holiday, Porzingis, or White. That's not a contender. That's a soft rebuild wearing a contender's jersey.